Hey there guys, so today I'm here to do Revelyn's 9-month update. She is on the floor, she will pop in and out from time to time, but I've got a lot to update you guys on, so let's get started. So to start off with, last week was one of the toughest weeks I have experienced thus far as a mom, and that is why a video did not go up last week. I had to take priority for my emotional state, one because my anxiety had started to come back. I actually had 2 panic attacks that started. Thankfully, my service dog, if you guys know I have a service dog, who's retired now, but he still is active at home. He thankfully alerted to them and was able to stop them from starting, so that was good, and both of them happened right after I put her down for a nap, so it's like, didn't happen when I was trying to take care of her, so I was very thankful for that. But it was a tough week, especially because I had not had issues with panic attacks and such in a good while. I really didn't have too many struggles with that. But she has been proving to be a little bit difficult, but we finally figured out why. She was having a difficult time sleeping more than 2 hours at a time, and so it was basically like being back in the newborn stage and not getting any sleep. She was very good at sleeping at night, but it would be really weird. In like a week or two she'd be fantastic, and then she'd have a week or so that she was really bad and she'd wake up every 2 hours. Her naps, until we figured out what the issue was, never were good. It didn't matter. She had a hard time going down. She wouldn't sleep for more than an hour. It was just bad. And last week was finally just kind of the brunt and the worst of it. But I'm thankful that I can say we figured out what the issue was. And it actually ended up being her pacifier. So for those of you guys that know, we allowed Revelyn the pacifier during the day, but not at night. Usually it's opposite for most parents. They allow it at night when they sleep, but not during the day. But I took it away from her around the age that she started being able to turn on her own, because she lost her pacifier in the middle of the night. She would wake up at that 2-hour mark at their lightest sleep phase, because she'd always lose it and it'd be out of her mouth at that point. So that is why I took it away way back when. That was probably around 3 months. So basically I had this thought that there was a chance that for some reason her subconscious mind wasn't allowing her to fully know how to sleep through that lightest sleep phase because she was allowed a pacifier during the day. It definitely seemed far-fetched to me, but it was the only thing I could think about as to why she would do good for a while and then she'd wake up every 2 hours. So I decided to take the pacifier away for just 1 day and see how she did. And thankfully, that night she slept actually between, I think it was 8 or 9 hours, and then she ate, then went back down till 12. And so this was like a week straight of her waking up every 2 hours, and nothing was fixing it, and it had never lasted this long before. And it could have been part of a sleep regression as well, but since then she's been awesome, except for the last 2 days, for a separate reason that I will mention. So thankfully for that issue though, we figured out it was the pacifier, and it's actually been very easy with her not having the pacifier during the day. I really don't think she actually needed it that much. It was more just kind of, I don't know, just there for her. She is a little more of a cranky baby, and we have to kind of keep her a little more busy and such during the day, but it's really not that difficult at all. It's definitely helpful for like times like right now when she's a little bit fussy and I could give it to her and she'd be perfectly happy for 20-30 minutes on the floor by herself. But I mean, nothing compares to being able to make sure that both you, the mom, and your child have a good night's sleep. That is what's important. Not only is it not good for me to be waking up every 2 hours, but it's not good for her either. She needs to get those long stints of sleep. So that was the issue behind that. That's fixed until the last 2 days when I think that she has finally started teething. Now the reason I think it's teething is because she has been tugging at her ears, but she had an ear infection once before and she hasn't been acting like that. And that is a sign as well for teething. She's been kind of putting her fingers in her mouth and chewing on them and such. She drools all the time anyway, so that isn't anything different. And then she also has been waking up in the middle of the night and she like screams. And so it's like a pain cry, and thankfully she's not waking up every 2 hours. It's usually between 3 to 5 hours she will wake up now, but it seems to be getting better. But I've tried to look into her mouth and she's not big on letting me look at her mouth, so I don't know for sure if that's the issue, but I know some kids, like, it's not that apparent that they're teething. And then there's also the shifting of the teeth, and then there's the cutting of the teeth, and the shifting can be painful as well too. It's kind of when the teeth are kind of getting into place for where they will cut through. There's like a difference between the two. So she could be doing either or, and if it's shifting, then they won't like they won't be inflamed or anything like that. So I'm hoping though that is the issue, because if it's not, then it's something else, then we gotta figure out what it is. So on top of that though, we did have a spout of constipation with her. That was not fun, and that kind of set us back a little bit with the potty. She still has not pooped in her diaper. I think it's been 5 months now. Yeah, I want to say 5 months since she's pooped in a diaper, only on the toilet. But she was having some issues with some constipation, but we fixed that, and we are giving her 4 ounces of pear juice a day, but it's diluted into 2 ounces with 2 ounces of water twice a day. So that's what we're doing with her to just regulate her. I was looking online to see what other moms said to see if they experienced this. She was constipated in that she was able to go every day, but she couldn't get it out without help. So that wasn't fun. It was just very, sorry, poop talk, you know. It was very hard stools, and she couldn't get it out on her own. And I even tried taking out more dairy, and didn't give it to her for about 2 days. It didn't make a difference. Oh, can you not reach your books? I'll get your books. I've tried like making sure that she has a wide range of foods, doesn't have too much dairy because that can constipate them. And nothing worked, and a lot of moms said that they just have this issue, and some babies just need like a pear juice or some type of food in their diet daily that will help keep them regulated. So as long as we need to do that, we will keep doing that. We have a juicer, so thankfully it's going to be cheaper. We're just juicing the pear ourselves, so we don't need to worry about spending a ton of money on pear juice for her. And the last issue has to do with her weight. So at her 9-month appointment, she had only gained a couple ounces from her 6-month appointment. And immediately, rightfully so, her pediatrician was worried about this. Her hemoglobin levels were the low end of normal, which is your iron levels. She said that she wasn't super nervous about it because normal is what they look for around is 11, and she was 10.5, which was still in the normal range, just the low end. So she just asked me to introduce more things like beans and such like that to her meals on a regular basis to get her iron levels up. But that wasn't really a concern at all for her. She was just mentioning it kind of as precaution so she doesn't drop below normal. Okay, we're gonna be best friends during this video, and I'm gonna breastfeed my child during it because she needs to eat. So basically the issue was that she had only gained a couple ounces from 6 to 9 months. And obviously that is not a large jump at all in a 3-month period. So she wanted me to pump when I got home and see how much I got. And I only got about 1.5 ounces, which is not a lot, and that was after 4 hours. But pumps are not very accurate, so likely I was more making about 3 ounces because pumps can't get out nearly as much as a child should. But she was saying that at her age, she should be drinking between 6 and 8 ounces every 4 hours. So obviously I still wasn't making enough. But here's where my mom intuition comes in. You know, she tried to tell me to supplement her formula after I breastfed her, and I did that for a while. She wanted nothing to do with it. Now this formula I use with her when she is babysat because I literally make enough supply for just her. I don't have enough to pump anything for her. So whenever she goes anywhere to be babysat, she's usually on formula, and so it's a formula she likes. It's something that she's taken before. That wasn't the problem. The issue is she just doesn't want anymore. And I look at it from a, you know, common sense perspective of she still goes 4 hours without a feed when there is a good amount of distractions. Otherwise it's about 2 hours, and that's still normal. I mean, at this age a lot of babies are going longer, but there are a lot of babies as well that like to eat smaller amounts more frequently, and my mom said I was the same way as a child. When I was breastfed, I would eat about every 2 hours, but I would eat smaller amounts. So it's normal, and it's also healthier even as an adult for you to be eating smaller amounts more frequently. So I'm looking at it from the perspective of the fact that she looks healthy, she has little rolls, she has a tummy, she doesn't look sickly. I feel like she's just meant to be a small baby. Even when she was in the hospital, she lost 7% of her body weight, and they worry at 10%. And so she wanted her in there first thing Monday. We left on a Saturday from the hospital to make sure that she didn't continue to lose that weight. So something just tells me that perhaps my placenta just plumps up my babies really good, but they're not meant to actually be that big. We get asked all the time if she was a preemie, and she wasn't, because she still fits 0 to 3 month clothes, but this is a 9-month that she's wearing. and it's baggy on her for sure, but she still fits in it. And I feel like I just have to use my mom intuition in this. Yes, my supply did drop a bit, but it dropped because she stopped wanting to eat as much. So I would be able to self-express and still get milk out, but she didn't want any more. And so it almost seemed like she was self-weaning almost. She still likes to breastfeed, but like she just doesn't want as much. She loves food and she eats real food all the time. She eats 3 meals a day and between 1 and 2 snacks, which is around 9 months what they should be eating. So I want to know your mom's perspective on this. Would you have done the same thing? Have you ever experienced anything like this? I guess I'm kind of at a loss whether to follow my intuition or follow my pediatrician, because I do feel that to some extent pediatricians, and this is many of them, hey, they tend to just look at the average and they don't think about the common sense side of things always. And just the pure fact that she lost so much weight right after birth and she has always continued to go down percentile wise. It just seems to me, like I said, like my placenta likes to give me very plump babies, but genetically they're not really supposed to be that big, so she's little, because I was very tiny as a baby. I was born 6 pounds 2 ounces I think, and I was very, very tiny up until like my sophomore year of high school. I was always very thin. So genetically it's in our family to be really small, so I don't know, you know, I'm kind of, my mom instincts say she's fine, don't worry about it. She doesn't want the food. She doesn't want the food. She's happy. She has little rolls. She has a tummy. She doesn't look sickly thin or anything. Right? The only issue is that obviously they require a lot more fat, and that's what they get from whole milk once they're 1 or from breast milk or formula. And she obviously isn't eating the extent that she should be. And I can try and supplement with a lot of fatty things the best I can with their actual table food, but it's not going to be enough. So until she's a year, it's just figuring out to make sure that she has enough fat in her diet. Right. Now while we're flapping your wings, should we tell them about your dislocated elbow? Maybe. So last week, on top of some of the things going on, she happened to dislocate her elbow while sleeping. So her next appointment was actually the next day. So we decided that if she wasn't sleeping through the night, that we would take her to the emergency room, and if she did sleep well, then we would just take her at her appointment. And so she obviously was still waking up more at that time because of the other issues, but she still was sleeping like 4 hours at a time, and she didn't wake up screaming in pain or anything like that. So we just took her the next day, and her pediatrician sent her down to x-rays to make sure that nothing was broken, because the shoulder wasn't out of place or anything, and the elbow with them, you can't tell if it's out of place. It's called nursemaid's elbow basically. And so she wanted to make sure before she tried anything to make sure that nothing was broken, and nothing was broken, so she tried this maneuver to pop it back into place if it was a problem. We heard the pop, and literally within 5 minutes she was using her left arm again, and that was the issue. She said that it's not very common to see it at her age. Usually it happens when like a toddler is running across the street and the parent grabs them really quick so they don't get hit by a car, and the elbow will pop out. Like that's kind of the thing that you usually see it in. So when I mentioned what had been going on, actually one of you guys, of our Flutter fan members, commented on my Instagram and said to look into connective tissue disorders, because she had seen signs that Ryan and I might have them, and they are a genetic disorder, so they can be passed to your children. So I decided to look into it, and the only one that would have made sense for me or Ryan to have, Ryan definitely doesn't have one, I don't think, but the only one for me to have would be the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. There were some symptoms that went along with it, like unexplained bruising, scoliosis, and then obviously the obvious one of you have joints that easily pop out of place. Now, since I was a kid, I have always had joints pop out. Just last week, I was reaching for something or putting on I was reaching for something. That's happened twice. I was reaching for something, and the other time I was putting a jacket on and my arm started to pop out. That is just normal for me. I do have scoliosis and I've always bruised very easily. So there are some of the symptoms that matched up with me, and I had to meet with a genetic counselor for another reason, which I will talk about in my pregnancy update, and she wanted me to mention everything going on. So I talked to her about that, and she said it was a good possibility that I probably had that. And so I am most likely going to be going to a geneticist and get tested. They do like a specific test for it to find out if I have it. Hi. And if I do, it's likely that that is why she popped out her elbow just from turning over in her sleep, because she may as well have a connective tissue disorder. So nothing is set in stone yet. I will have to actually meet with a geneticist and find out if I have that, and then if I do, they may or may not test REV. They don't usually like to test infants or minors under 18 for it, but if they think it's going to be are you okay? But if they think it's going to be a big issue for her growing up, then they will test her. So going back to food, she is completely off purees. I don't know if that was by 8 months. I'm really suck at details of things. I'm just excited to see her growing up and doing new things. I tend not to just focus on the numbers. She is not crawling yet. She can crawl backwards, like she kind of like scoots back and stuff like that. It just seems like she just doesn't have a want to. Every time we try to get her to crawl, she just ends up like putting her head back and crying because she doesn't want to. So I don't think it's an issue of having the inability to do it. She also has just started trying to pull herself up on things. She has not successfully done it yet, but she is starting to try and pull herself up, so that's exciting. I think that's really it, guys. There was a ton to update you on things like happening with her, but not so much like crazy milestones or anything like that. We've just kind of been figuring out weight stuff, elbow stuff, sleep stuff. So it's been a tough month, but still, I absolutely love her to death, even when she's a little bit of a pain in the butt. And she is an absolute joy to have. We love her, even when she's screaming like that. Hey, yeah, I know it's nap time. Can you say hi? Say hi? Hi. Good job. Yeah, you say hi, don't you? Okay. Uh-huh. So I hope you guys enjoyed this update. Bye.
Look at her, just keeps on getting better with her hand in mine. So we're walking by the shore, I've got something to say.